everybody. Welcome to Elevate. I am your host, Deanna Johnson Coffin.
And I'm Adriana Coffin, your co-host. We're the mother-daughter talk show that's here to elevate your family.
Terrific. Well, we are glad to be back with you again this week, and we have what we think is an excellent show plan. So here's a little bit of a rundown. Today we are going to be taking you around the town to Charleston, South Carolina. We have some great film and footage from that, so make sure you stay with us to watch that segment. Also, in the Spotlight segment, I am excited to bring you Dr. Danita Thompson. Dr. Danita Thompson is a friend of mine, but she's also a therapist and the director of Mending Hearts Family Counseling in New Jersey. And so she's going to be talking to us about communication, something we all probably need to do a little bit better with. And finally, in our how-to segment, we're going to be talking about ways to restore the family meal time around the table. And this also we'll be talking about communication also in that segment. So really good stuff for you guys today, which leads me to my next question, to my question for my audience that I'd love you to answer. The question is this: did you grow up eating around the family table when you were young? Did you grow up eating with your family around the table? What we'd like you to do is to answer that question in the comments segment of the YouTube channel, of our YouTube channel. Did you grow up eating around the table with your family? So now we want to make sure we give you an update on our Stepping into Summer exercise challenge that Adriana and I have been doing for the last few weeks. Adriana, do you want to tell them a little bit more about that and give them an update?
Yes, so we've been doing the challenge for the past 3 weeks.
This is end of week 3.
Yeah, this is the end of week 3. And today, we're doing something a little bit different with the score announcement.
Yeah.
So my dad has calculated the score
for both of us
and put them on these little folded up pieces of paper
so
here.
We don't know what it is.
Yeah, we don't know what it is. So we're going to be finding out right along with you guys.
Right now, I will tell you this. I want to just tell the audience that there was some sort of a faux pas. That's the only French I know, by the way. A faux pas with my Fitbit. I have kind of a cheaper version. You get what you pay for, they say. Anyway, so there were 2 days when it didn't even calculate my scores. You know what? I think they sabotage.
I did not sabotage you.
You're a saboteur.
I am not a saboteur.
Anyway, mysteriously, 2 of my days went missing. 0. Like, I went no steps. I would have to be dead.
Well, that's what you get for buying a cheap Fitbit.
Okay, you know what? I don't want to talk about this anymore. Saboteur. Anyway, so what we did was we took an average of my steps and slipped those into those 2 days. So, like I said, we don't know what those scores are. So we're going to go ahead and open our scores right now. Okay, I've got mine. Would you like to read yours first?
After you.
Age before beauty. Is that what they say? I'm older, so age before beauty?
I guess so.
Okay, here we go. My steps for the past week is 51,765. Woohoo!
Oh, I'm the loser this week. I got 49,637.
Praise God from whom all blessings flow.
You may have won the battle this week, but I'm going to win this war.
Praise Him, all creatures here below.
Stop singing.
Praise Him above the heavenly hosts. Praise Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. Yay! I won 3 weeks. This is week 3, right? So you won weeks 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? This is the power of perseverance.
Don't get too comfortable.
And even though there may be saboteurs in the house,
I am not a saboteur.
Yeah.
You are the owner of a cheap Fitbit.
Okay, I'm done. I'm done. You know what? We're going to take a break, but don't go away. Well, we are back, and in this week's in the Spotlight segment, we are going to be talking to Dr. Danita Thompson. Dr. Thompson is a family therapist out of New Jersey. She is the founder and clinical director of the Mending Hearts Family Counseling Center. And in addition to her work as a therapist, she also serves alongside of her husband as the executive pastor of Mending Hearts Kingdom Church, which is in Florence, New Jersey.
So Dr. Thompson will be talking about the art of communication, and she'll be telling us all kinds of things, like the fact that communication is not just about the words you say, it's also about a variety of things, including listening and body language.
Absolutely, absolutely. So take a look at our interview with Dr. Thompson. Well, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule, Dr. Thompson, and being with us today to talk about the subject of communication. So let's just get into it. I guess the first thing I'd like to ask you is, we all talk, and I think we're talking to each other all day long. We're talking to husbands are talking to wives, wives are talking to husbands, parents are talking to children, colleagues are talking to each other. So we all talk all day long, but I guess I want to ask, what do you think is the talk alone is not necessarily effective communication? What do you think is the biggest area to effective communication?
I think I would say that it's a lack of skill. I think that people say all the time, we need to communicate, but it's not, like you said, it's not just sharing words. And I'm glad you said, like we throw out words all the time, but it's more than just an exchange of words. Communication goes much deeper than that. And when we're in relationship with people, we want to make meaning with our words. And so it does take skill. There's an art, they say, to communication. And so and so I think that skill that is missing, and there's several, that fall under the skill set of communication.
Yeah. So basically there's a fundamental lack of skills, you think?
Yeah, I believe. Yeah.
Wow. So now, with that being said, what do you think, when we talk about skills, what do you think is the most important component to being a good communicator, to being an effective communicator?
So, most people would start out with saying you need to really be a good listener. But as a mental health professional, I would go, before being a good listener, you need to be emotionally mature. There is a quote by this woman named Dorothy Neville, and it says, the real art of communication, or the real art of conversation, is not only to say the right thing in the right place, but to leave unsaid the wrong thing at a tempting moment. That really takes emotional maturity.
Oh, it does. Yeah, that's a whole nother level of being, of existing. And it's because that requires self-regulation.
Yes,
control.
Selflessness. It requires you being in the position of really wanting to know the heart of the person that you are in communication with. And so it's just not all about what you have going on in your mind and in your space. And so that emotional maturity is really vital.
Yeah, and I think that the emotional maturity, like you said, is what, or the lack of emotional maturity is what makes us just kind of unload on someone. You know what I mean? It's what I'm feeling in this moment, and that's all that counts.
Right. And it's what makes us go back to being 5 years old, where I'm not your friend and I'm not going to talk to you anymore.
Exactly. Yeah. And that can happen. Even, I had an experience with someone yesterday, and this person is much, much older, but I didn't know that what I was saying triggered something in her. I had no idea that a simple question was going to be a trigger. And that took her back to being 11, 12, 13 years old. And what I heard in those moments, as she was spouting off things, ranting basically, what I heard was the little girl in her that was hurt. And I just, at that point, I just sort of backed off. I just thought, okay, there's more here
than I
Right.
knew. And so, and not to come back at her and say, well,
Yeah.
but I think that, like you said, that requires maturity.
Yeah, that what you did required maturity, because
Yeah.
someone else who was
Yeah.
emotionally immature
Yeah.
would have gotten offended by her trigger,
Right.
and it would have just not ended
Escalated to
well.
something
Yeah.
ugly, actually. So
Yeah.
now I've heard, so we talk about maturity, we talk about being a good listener. What are some other skills required to move forward as far as being an effective communicator is concerned?
Yeah, well, I think the ability to be open-minded, really to be able to say, also to be able to say what you mean, to mean
Oh,
what you say,
yes.
and then to not say it mean.
Oh,
Someone had said that to me. I thought that is really good.
yes,
Say what
yes,
you mean
yes,
what you say, but don't
yes.
say it mean.
Um,
Yeah.
let's talk about nonverbal, and you kind of alluded to that in the sense that you talked about how we grow up and some of the things that have happened in our families of origin. But let's talk a little bit about nonverbal things like body language,
Mhm.
facial expressions, posture. How does all that factor into good communication or bad communication?
Yeah. So the experts are saying that 70 to 93% of all communication is nonverbal. So that's huge.
Yeah.
So what the messages your body sends, what you do with your eyes, how you twitch your mouth,
Yes.
How you put your
Yes.
head to the side,
Yeah.
all of those body language, even your tone sends a message. So where you put the emphasis on a
Yes.
word can
Wow.
change the whole meaning of a
Yes.
sentence. I used to do this communication workshop, and I would just use the sentence, "I didn't say your outfit looks silly."
Yeah.
So then if you put your emphasis on different parts of the word, you could say,
Yeah.
"I didn't say your outfit
Yeah.
looks silly."
Yeah,
Or
that
you could
feels
say,
different.
"I didn't say your outfit
Right.
looks silly."
Yes.
Or you can say, "I didn't say your outfit looks silly."
Wow.
Or, "I didn't say your outfit looks silly."
Oh my goodness.
So anywhere you put the
Yes.
emphasis, it can completely change. And depending on where you are in your emotions, where you
Yes.
are in your heart,
Yes.
or even sometimes culturally,
Yeah.
emphasis are put on words in
Yeah.
ways that the person that they're communicating with may not hear it the same
Right.
way.
Exactly. That's a big one.
And so that, it's really, really important. Your hand gestures, all of those things, they speak of what really is going on in your heart. Your
Oh, it
body
does.
says what's going on.
Oh, it really does. So now we talked about so many of us don't have the skills. I guess the big, $50,000 question is, where do you go to get these skills if you don't have them? I mean, what do you do? Or you just muddle, through?
Communication is a hot topic. It never dies down.
Right.
In the workplace, communication is necessary. So
Yeah.
Google can be your best friend.
Oh, it can be. It can be.
As
Yeah.
it relates to just gaining the skills necessary. Books,
Right.
literature, workbooks can give you the opportunity to practice. But if you are finding that you're consistently butting up against poor ability to communicate, you're always in situations where you're not understood or you're not able to understand other people, then that's a little bit more than the skill. So I would suggest that you get professional help,
Yeah.
join a group, or go to therapy, counseling.
For me, being with just a good group of safe friends
Mhm.
allows me a place and a space to just kind of air my stuff and get feedback, and from people who I know are going to respect me and love me, and so that's having good friends are invaluable.
Yeah, and I think that if communication is something that you want to actively work on, then you should say that.
Oh,
In that
wow.
safe space, you can say, "You know what, I'm really trying to work on my communication skills." So, you can get those friends to hold you accountable when you go left and you're not sharing, in a way that it's palatable to the other
Right,
person,
exactly. Yes,
then they
yes,
can, hold you accountable and say, the way
yeah,
you said that,
yeah,
it was a little off-putting. And
right,
so if you say it up front, I'm trying
right,
to work on this, then you need to be willing to
right.
hear the
That's right.
feedback,
That's
that is
exactly
being
right.
shared.
That's right.
Mhm.
That's exactly right. Well, this is one of those subjects, like you said, that is being talked about in a lot of spaces. And you can go on and on. There's so many things I want to pick your brain
Mhm.
about, but I know you've got to go and I do too. But I think that you've touched on some really good things. I'm going to put some resources on the screen for my audience to look at in case they
Mhm.
want to go ahead and, get that extra help. But thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule. I always enjoy
Oh,
talking.
you're welcome.
Well, we're going to take a short little break, but don't go away. We will be right back. Well, we are back, and in our how-to segment, we thought that it was important to talk about something that we feel is a lost art, and that's establishing, or in this case, maybe reestablishing the mealtime around the family table. Now, I don't know about your family, but I grew up having meals, at least some of my meals, around the family table. And Adriana, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that families eating together is definitely a lost habit. I just think that with people being busy, parents working, kids having school and activities,
Yeah.
that families are just sort of missing each other and not necessarily taking that time out of their day
Definitely.
to spend some quality time together.
Definitely. And so I think that when families, and this is something that Dr. Danita talked about earlier in her interview about communication, but when families sit down together, even if it's just for one meal, it's a time for people to share, to communicate, to talk about what's happened in their day, as well as other important issues. And so it's a great time to bond, right?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that meal times are a great time for families to have, important discussions and to talk about what's going on with each other.
Oh, yeah.
Since it's a built-in time when everyone's already together.
That's right, and we do that. I mean, we do that quite often. Maybe definitely not every meal, but at least one meal. And so, what do you think about the best time to share a meal? When would that be? I mean, do you think it's realistic, first of all, for families to all sit down together or every meal?
Well, first of all, I think that, if you're just spending one meal together, I think you're way ahead of a lot of families.
Yes,
And
right.
another thing is that, you can take into consideration your schedule.
Right.
I mean, you can have different meal times from day to day. I mean,
True.
it could be,
That's true.
6 o'clock one day and 7:30 on other days.
Yeah, I mean, and that I think is a very, very important point to make, that I think it needs to be flexible. You need to be flexible, but you also need to communicate that to the rest of the family members what that would be. And, you talk about flexibility, but part of flexibility is saying that, breakfast might be the meal that works for our family, or the best. And with parents working from home still, lunch may be something that parents and kids can do together, with it being summertime. But I also think that for most people, and you tell me if this is true or not, that dinner probably is going to be the time where most people can come together and sit down for a meal. What do you think about
Yeah,
that?
and I think another good thing about eating dinner together as
Yes.
opposed to other meals is that it's the end of the day.
Right.
You don't have to rush off and do something else afterwards.
True. Very good. I think the important thing is to decide ahead of time what that schedule is going to be, what that meal is going to be, and communicate that to everyone. I think communication is a big part of the equation here.
So, where do you think the best place for a family to have a meal is?
Well, I know we've talked about this, and you and I think, have different opinions. I am more of a traditionalist, so I think that sitting around the dining room table is a good place to have a meal. It's a dedicated space to have a meal. It allows the family to pull away from other things that they might be doing, watching TV, playing video games, whatever, away from the phone. That's assuming you're not bringing your cell phones to the table. And for everybody to just be together and eat. It doesn't necessarily have to be, big and fancy, but it's a space, it's a dedicated space. What do you think about that?
Now, I agree that it's really important to make sure that, no phones at the dinner table and no TV, but I don't necessarily think that you have to be at the dining room table.
Okay.
I mean, as long as you're spending quality time together, it doesn't really matter where you are in the house, if you're at the kitchen table or on the deck or wherever.
That's true. So again, more flexibility, because that may work taking it outside may work better for people. As opposed to sitting around in maybe a formal dining room. And to be perfectly honest, there's a lot of people that don't have a formal dining room space.
Yeah.
We don't have formal dining room. We have a dining room, but we have an open concept, so ours is not really formal. But I think giving yourself permission to take it outside or wherever is good. And as long as you're together,
that's
sitting
the important thing.
and being together. Now let's switch gears a little bit and talk about the actual aesthetics of dining. Here we have, because I want you to understand that dining doesn't necessarily have to be formal or fancy. This is actually some dining wear that we picked up from the Goodwill the other day.
Yeah.
And we got this ensemble. There's 2 sets here, but we actually have more. But we got this whole ensemble for under $15, and that was for a setting of 6, not including the flatware, which I bought separately from Walmart. I think each set, there was a set of 3. The spoon that comes with this was $1 for each set. So the point being that you can set a table, a very nice table, a very appealing table for cheap. By going to places like Goodwill, Salvation Army, Target, Walmart, the whole thing. And for those people who would like to do something more formal, because for me, I actually like to do formal table settings, not all the time, but some of the time. That's an option for you too. I actually was gifted a very formal, high-end China set, one that I probably could not have afforded, at least not back in the day. It's 144 pieces, and it's 24 karat gold trimmed. So probably something that was out of my price range back a while back ago. But I was gifted that from a family friend. But you could also buy those things at a Goodwill. You could buy a very nice, a more formal pattern at a Goodwill. So don't think that you can't do formal, because you can do that. There's a place for that as well. Can you talk about kids in dining?
Yes, so if you want to get the kids involved and have them, learn about setting tables, I mean, it's really easy for them to learn how to set it. You can look up different table settings for formal or informal situations on ElevateTalk.com, and that's a great guide for you to use for yourself and for your kids.
Yeah, and setting a table is such a good skill to have. I think, like I said, I know that that's something that I did with you and your brothers and sisters, but also with your nieces and nephews, my grandchildren. And it really is a very satisfying feeling whenever my grandkids come over. They know that they're going to be sitting down at a table to have a meal. They know that we're not using paper plates. They know we're going to use real flatware and glasses and stoneware or whatever. And they know how to set a table. It's a very satisfying thing for everybody, and they actually look forward to it. So like she said, if you want to find out more about how to set a table and just dining in general, dining etiquette, go to EmilyPost.com and you'll see, and just click on the link for dining. Well, we're going to take a break, but don't go away. Well, we are back, and this week's Around the Town adventure takes us to Charleston, South Carolina, and we loved all things about Charleston, didn't we, Adriana?
Yes, and the great thing about Charleston is you've got the best of both worlds. It's two for the price of one. You've got your beach,
Yes.
but then you also have a lot of history and things you can explore in the city.
Oh, just lovely. And they do, it is really the best of both worlds. So take a look at our adventures in Charleston, South Carolina. This week, our Around the Town adventures take us to the beautiful city of Charleston, South Carolina. Charleston, a port city founded in 1670, is defined by its cobblestone streets, horse-drawn carriages, and pastel antebellum houses, particularly in the elegant French Quarter and Battery districts. On the first part of our tour, we traveled downtown to Meeting Street and we visited several venues, including the Confederate Museum, the United States Custom House, and the Charleston City Market, where people come from near and far to shop for artisan treats and handmade goods. We then made our way over to Joe Riley Waterfront Park, an 8-acre park along 1/2 mile of the Cooper River in Charleston. The park, with its paved walkway, lovely fountain features, and great views, is one of the most popular places to visit in the Charleston area. Next on the itinerary was a visit to Folly Beach for a few hours of sun, sand, water, and waves. After our visit to the beach, we traveled a short distance to Sullivan's Island, the home of the Gullah Geechee people, a community that retained more of the African culture than any other African American group, despite the ravages of slavery. While there, we visited Fort Moultrie, a series of fortifications on Sullivan's Island built to protect the city of Charleston during the American Revolution. Our final destination during our visit to Charleston took us to the Citadel, the military college of South Carolina. Established in 1842, it is one of 6 senior military colleges in the United States. The gleaming white buildings, the pristinely manicured lawns, and the magnificent chapel reflects the pride of this institution. Charleston is a seaport city bursting with Southern charm, lots of great history, and we can't wait to return. Well, we need to take a short little break, but don't go away because we will be back. Before we go, we would like to encourage you to share something that you are doing to elevate your life, whether it's losing that weight that you wanted to lose, or whether it's kicking the smoking habit, or whether it's something that you have created and that just makes your life beautiful or makes the life of those people around you beautiful. Share that with us, and Adriana is going to tell you how to do that.
So to share your stories with us, go to our Elevate channel and subscribe. Then send your stories and pictures to elevateytchannel@gmail.com. You can also become a friend of the Elevate Facebook page, and that will allow you to share your stories and photos with us there as well.
That's right. And please remember that each week we upload a new episode of the ElevateTalk Show on our YouTube channel. You can also catch us on, if you live in DeKalb County, Georgia, you can look for us on Comcast Channel 25 at 7 o'clock on Sunday evening. So you can catch us on YouTube, or you can catch us on Comcast Channel 25 if you live in DeKalb County, Georgia.
Yes, so thanks for watching the Elevate Show, and I hope we see you next week.
We'll see you next time. Bye.